Hello everyone, this is Jennifer again. It is 7:30 and we'll be getting started in a moment. I see we're up to 55 attendees, so we'll just give it a minute to see if that number slows down any. Also a reminder, we are recording this session and the recording has started now. There is a chat box as well that I'll be monitoring while Dave goes through his material tonight. And we'll keep that open for any questions that come in to make sure that we can capture any questions that the teams may have. And I see we're up to just 56 people now, so I think the bulk of everyone has gotten into the meeting. And Dave Turbide, are you still out there?
I'm here. I was muted.
Okay, super. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started then. We do have another hour scheduled for tonight. What I wanted to do first off was just a quick reminder of where we are in our agenda before we get to the fun and interesting things that Dave will take us through. So tonight is webinar number 2. So welcome back to our team meeting here that we have around the case competition. We're going to just check in where we are again on the agenda. We have a lot happening as we are in the middle of the competition now. That started officially last week. Our next key dates are this Sunday when the simulation tool again will close at 9 a.m. Eastern. So have all your entries in by 9 a.m. And then after that, we'll actually be seeing each other on site in Albany, New York for rounds 3 through 5. We do start off Friday with a 3 p.m. kickoff. So that is when the rounds will start, is at 3 o'clock on Friday. The next slide shows a bit more detail about that. The top of the page in black text is what we did last week. So we are now at Monday, February, actually it's Tuesday, isn't it? It's Tuesday, February 21st for this week. We're having our webinar right now. What we're going to go over is Dave will take us through the results and some of the insights he can share with us from the round 1. He can see obviously what the teams are doing and maybe help clarify some things that will help the teams. Again, we're not going to be going into details on, very specific strategies or anything that would give away too much, but clearly want to help everyone get used to the tool and the different linkages we should be making at this early point in the simulation rounds. At the end of the webinar tonight, round 2 will be open, and then again we have all week until Sunday a.m. and 9 in the morning when the tool will close. Again, Friday, March the 3rd, we begin round 3 in Albany. We can have teams check into the hotel as early as noon, and at 3 o'clock we do start the simulation rounds. If we look at our on-site agenda, again, simulation rounds happen between 3 and 9 that night. We will be stopping for an hour dinner break, so we get to have a little bit of a reprieve, stretch our legs, and mingle with each other. Then on Saturday, we will be having breakfast. Our team presentations are due by 10:30 on a flash drive, and then all afternoon we'll be going through the different tracks for the presentations for both graduate and undergraduates. We'll then start our rewards and recognition reception around 4:30 and be wrapped up by 7 o'clock. That being said, now I was just going to hand it over to Dave to take us through what you'd like to share with us tonight. So I'm going to make you the presenter. Hang on a moment while I find your name.
Just one of the many, huh?
Mm-hmm. And Dave, I'm having trouble passing you the ball here. It says you're an ineligible recipient.
Okay, was there a different link I should have used?
Probably not. I probably, in our new setup here, should have done that for you. So were you going to demo anything, or should you send me? You were. Okay, so let me see how I can change your status. Hold on, everybody. Okay. So let me go. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, everybody, and flip to a different screen so I can get Dave in here how he needs to be. So Dave, you may now actually be getting another link.
I can just chat while you're doing that. Hello, everyone.
Yes, why don't you start with an overall view while I try to get you on here as another organizer. Sorry about this, everyone.
Okay, we had a pretty interesting range of results from the first round. Not unexpected. I hate to say best and worst. The bottom performer had an ROI of minus 44%. The top performer was a plus 5.6, and the other 26 teams fell somewhere in that range. Not unusual for first round. And I will take you through the top two and the bottom two just to show you a little bit about what happened and how to go in and review your results and take it forward from there. Generally speaking, I think most people, most folks that approach this simulation from the beginning will spend the first round firefighting. That is, you will rightly focus on the penalties that you saw in that initial startup round and try to solve the penalty problem in one way or another. The problem comes in how you choose to resolve that situation. And as I mentioned to you in the last session, you can either change your customer promises to fit your performance or attempt to change your performance to meet your customer service objectives, or someplace in between. But implied in that, and something I specifically did not talk to you a whole lot about, but implied in that is your strategy decision, how you want to run your company. Do you want to be the Walmart of fruit juices and have a high sales volume at low margin and you know, operate that way and not be that concerned about reliability and quality and so forth? Or do you want to be the Tiffany's or the Rolls Royce of fruit juices and focus on high quality and high delivery reliability, make extravagant promises to your customers, and then spend the money and the effort to deliver on those promises? Either strategy can be successful. I've seen companies in the simulation be very successful at either end of that spectrum and many places in between. So in order to figure out what you need to do to move forward, you really should all have a clear idea of what it is you are trying to do, your company strategy. You know, how you want to present your products to the marketplace and deal with your customers, and then structure your purchasing and your operations and your finished goods inventory strategies and so forth to meet those objectives. It really doesn't matter what the objectives are, you just have to have alignment, and that's why the word alignment appeared on that introductory slide that Jennifer showed you, and we'll be talking about that in each successive round. Alignment is key, and that means that the strategic decisions you make must support the strategy that you've determined for your company. Now, it could be that the folks that did not perform up to their expectations, perhaps, did not have a clear strategy, and we're just fighting fires. I find that that's the case many times. And those that have been particularly successful, turning in a positive result, perhaps had a better view of the strategy, or maybe they were just lucky. There's a certain amount of that involved in this as well, because the simulation does imitate reality quite well, which is to say that there's a fair amount of randomness in there, and the kind of things that a company will normally face day to day in terms of demand fluctuations and delivery performance from suppliers and machine breakdowns and that kind of thing. Those happen, and they're built into the simulation, and they will affect you. And I can't say how they will affect you because they are quite random, which is very realistic. So you need to do the best you can and protect yourself as much as you can from the effect of those challenges. But that's real world. That's a really good reflection of how the real world works. How are you doing, Jennifer?
Pretty good. Have you gotten any notion of updating that says you're now a panelist on your side?
I have not seen anything, and I do have the simulation up on my screen. So if you pass it to me, then it should change to that.
Yes.
I accept it.
I am.
So.
Not seeing you come up here.
I'll continue to vamp here.
You continue to vamp while I do that, and I will also monitor the questions page.
I will. This would be better with visuals, but let me do it anyway. I'm looking at the worst performer, which will remain anonymous at this point. This company turned in a ROI of minus 44.44%. Now, the first thing that, and I'm looking at the financial statement at this point, first thing that jumps out at me is a penalty of 711,926 euros. Pretty significant penalty. When your sales revenue was only 2.5 million, and you're penalized, over 700,000 in penalties for failure to deliver on your promises, that's a huge hit. So your net operating profit is a minus 1.6 million. So that's not good at all. So if we look into that a little bit deeper, we can see that the penalty was distributed across the three customers: food and groceries, 386,000; land market, 191,000; Dominic's, 133,000, kind of in proportion to their sales volume. And then if we look at the cost of goods, for example, the purchase value is up 100,000. The stock costs are up 645,000. So costs are up, but this company failed to deliver on their promises. Now, the promises they made, the shelf life was raised from the standard 75% to 85% across the board. So they're promising the world to their customers. In other words, instead of having 5 weeks worth of finished goods inventory life, they cut themselves down to 3 weeks. That's the way that shelf life works. 75% shelf life on a 20-week product says that you have 5 weeks worth of shelf life that you can use in the warehouse, and then you can't ship it if there's less than 15 weeks left to the customer. So this company had a pretty substantial, let me look it up for you, pretty substantial cost of scrap, 107,000. When the starting point was at 40,000, so almost triple the spoiled product that could not be sold and had to be destroyed. The promised reliability was 89% on average for the three customers. The that the actual performance, let me call that up here, the actual delivery was in the, let's see, on an order lines level, 76% for orange juice, 82% for mango, 72% for the vitamin C in the 1 liter, and in the low 80s for pet orange and orange mango, 72% for the vitamin C pet container. So significantly lower than the promises to the customers. Promised 89%, delivered in the high 70s, low 80s, and that's the source of that big penalty. So why did that happen? Well, dig a little bit further in, we could see that there was a significant failure to deliver on the production side. If we look at operations, mixing and bottling, the production plan adherence was 74.7%. It says we put a production plan together, and this simulation runs a plan, an MRP if you want to use that terminology, and sets up a production schedule, and then this company was only able to complete that schedule at a 74.7% performance level. Now, why is that? Primarily, 2 factors. One is component shortages, and the other is use of overtime. Okay, so you didn't have enough staff, so I had to use temps, which are less efficient. Okay, and put a strain on the overall production part of the business. Okay, so that's the story there. And if we look at the components, we'll see that some of them ran out, and that led to production problems, which led to finished goods inventory problems, which led to failure to deliver according to the promises. So what does this company need to do at this point? Well, they need to get their act together, okay? And that could be a combination of lowering the promises to customers, which will lower the revenue, but will also lower the penalties. And there's a good trade-off there. I would not suggest lowering the promises down to the the low 80s. That's ridiculous. But you might lower them from an average of 89.3% now. That's already pretty low. You might lower them a little bit more, but I would more focus on proper manpower in production, and I would focus on trying to eliminate those material shortages. So the purchasing side has got some work to do here. Now, moving on to
Dave.
Yeah.
Can you please go to your email? You should have a link now that will allow you to share your slides. Should have just gotten one from the GoToWebinar application.
Let me sign out of this one and sign back in on the new one. Okay.
Super. So we might listen for a moment, but again, Dave was just going over what you verbally heard were the challenges he saw and decisions facing the team that had the lowest ROI, so on the extreme end of some of the ideas and things to keep aware of as that team navigates the next rounds. Okay, and I do see Dave now here. So I can indeed make him a presenter so we can see his screens for this now.
Can you hear me now?
So we can hear you. I'm going to make sure I can see your screen. I've got the question room open and people are asking lots of questions about the viewing, so hopefully they'll come in here soon. I am seeing just a GoToWebinar screen now on your view, Dave. So if you want to go perhaps to your Fresh Connections tab to get to the
okay, I have the first
there's some lovely children.
Those are my grandchildren.
Lovely grandchildren.
Thank you very much. Okay, can you see the
And now I can see the Fresh Connections.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay,
Sorry for
good.
that, everybody.
All right. So anyway, this is the team I was showing you, and you can see that it's G3. But we don't hold them against them. And it's not my intention here to shame anybody or praise anybody, but we should all be able to learn from their experience. And let me just show you what I was talking about here briefly. Here's the 700,000 penalty. And if we look at the differences from round 0 to round 1, you'll see over here that the purchases were up by 100,000. The stock costs were up by 645,000. If we look into detail on that, most of it was overflow warehouse. Okay, so it's not that, you know, our component problems were not that we had too few components, but it was mostly timing, I'd say, or perhaps unreliable suppliers who were delivering late, or not delivering the quality that we needed or expected. Okay, so I can dig in and see exactly what happened there. If I want to look into supply chain components, you'll see that there were some momentary shortages, orange in particular over in the right-hand side here. That's serious because orange goes into all the products. We had a little bit of a shortage of mango here about day 40, and a more prolonged shortage of vitamin C late in the cycle, day 100 to 112 or so, like that. So you know, that's part of the problem. Another part of the problem is over here in operations, mixing and bottling. All right. And you can see over here on the right-hand side, production plan adherence 74%. You got to do better than that. Right? You only 75% of your plan is being executed. So that's going to result in finished goods difficulties, guaranteed. And again, if we go out to supply chain and look at product, you'll see that we had some shortages out there in all products. Some short, some long, but that's what hit us on service level. And you can see the service level up here for each product: 76, 82, 72, 82, 81, 81, 72, and you promised 89% to the customers. So you need to go into firefighting mode and resolve that. And in this case, I'd say that the resolution is not in lowering that promise anymore, because it's already down to 89% on average. You need to boost your performance. And I think you know where to look to do that. Now let's look at a good example. Let's look to 11275. And, all right, and look at their results. Come on. There we go. Let me know when you can see it. Financial statement?
No, I'm still on the round 1 dashboard view.
Looks like the internet's still on holiday. All right, so I have the financial statement up. This particular team had a bonus of 4,537, which is good. Anything under 5,000, I'd say is good in either direction. In previous examples, previous competitions, we've had companies, teams turn in a bonus of 20, 30, 40,000 euros, and that's not good. You are over-delivering, which means you are incurring more cost than you really need to, and you're not getting the revenue commensurate with that improvement in service. So yeah, you got a bonus, but you'd get more revenue if you had promised that level of performance rather than delivering more than you promised. So under 5,000 plus or minus is pretty good. Closer to 0, the better. Now in this case, we saw that there is a decrease in stock cost, which is good. Okay, pretty much across the board. The tank yard was the big decrease, 26,000, and finished goods warehouse, 50,000. So you shrunk the size of the finished goods warehouse, and you had some overflow, which reduced the finished goods fixed locations from 150,000 to 100,000 euros, and only increased the overflow from 600 to 18,000. So there's a net gain of about 30,000 there, which is good. Good. So I could make an argument that if you weren't going to change your finished goods position at all, that you could increase that warehouse size a little bit, and I'd say off the top of my head about 3,000 locations or 4,000 locations, something like that, and that would smooth it out even more. And I said, 3,000 or 4,000, that's just top of the head number, because those temporary locations are about 5 times more expensive than fixed locations. So I just divided quickly, and 3,000 or 4,000 additional locations will bring that overflow down to close to zero, unless you do something to change your finished goods inventory. That is, you change your delivery schedule, or sales, or the production schedule, or the lot size for produced products. All of those things can affect the actual finished goods inventory at any given point in time. The other thing I want to look at here is cost of scrap. Went from 40,000 to 19,000. Now that's expired goods. Now it turns out that this team promised a service level of 95%, which I think is the default that you started with. They didn't change that. And they tweaked the shelf life a little bit. 75%, 73%, 76% for the 3 customers. Okay, but the important thing is, and those aren't huge changes, aren't significant changes. The important thing is the performance has improved greatly to reduce that. What was the initial penalty? 168,000 down to a bonus of 4,500. Excellent, well done to this team. There was a 5 point. Looking at the second place team, 5.26% plus. There was another team that delivered 5.6% plus, and that was the top in this round. They did pretty much the same thing. They raised the service level to 96%, just a 1% gain. Shelf life was changed to 76%, 78%, and 80%. And even though they were promising more, they were able to tweak their purchasing and production and so forth to deliver on that promise. They also had about a 4,000 euro bonus and slightly higher obsoletes, 4% versus 3% overall. But they did have a problem with vitamin C in the PET bottles. The obsoletes there were 12%, so they overproduced a little bit. Kind of missed the mark on the PET bottle vitamin C product. I don't know if they had any shortages or production disruptions, but I can look at it's 272. Hang on. 272. 14. Let's look at operations and see what their mixing and bottling performance is. Yeah, 91.4% production plan adherence. Good. Anything above 90 is good, reasonably good. Also look at overtime, almost nothing. 0.1 hours per week average on overtime. However, look at this. Underutilization here. I can't highlight it. Over here on the left, a little bar graph. 34.3% underutilized or idle production capability. Wasteful. Wasteful. In this case, not significant because you were able to generate a positive return, but that's a place where you can perhaps do some more to either save money or to, better yet, use that additional production capability to better match the product flow to the customer order rate. Okay, just briefly, let's take a quick look at the inventory, product inventory. A couple of shortages, a real brief one on mango in the 1 liter in the top center there. A little bit longer shortage of orange vitamin C PET bottles down at the lower right, day 50 to 60, and then another little shortage around day 70 or so. But that's not a high volume product, and that's the reason why the obsolescence, I think, was higher in the PET, because it overcompensated and had higher inventory in the last half of the cycle. So you had to throw some of that away. Let's take a quick look at components, and you won't see shortages here. Just touch the 0 on the PET bottles around day 18. No other shortages. You could argue that maybe you could bring those overall inventory levels down a little bit, but I'd be careful about that. Having a little extra raw material inventory is not as bad as the penalties that you will suffer from running out, both in production performance and in customer service. Okay, so it's a good example and a bad example. What I'd like to do with the remaining time here, and I don't intend to keep you right till 8:30, but I do want to show you a couple of things that are new in this level of the simulation that you didn't see last time. Starting with purchasing. In round 1, yes, go ahead.
Before we go there were a few questions. If we could perhaps answer those, I think, before we move ahead.
Okay.
So the first one that is out here is the ROI we achieved in round 1 the starting point for round 2?
No. These ROIs are for the 6-month period represented by the round only. The only thing that carries over from one round to the next is your finished goods inventory, your raw material inventory level, and any costs that you incurred for improvements or training and that kind of thing that are amortized over more than one 6-month period. So I don't know if any of you did training or invested in, well, you were limited. You couldn't invest in new equipment. But if you had, then the costs would be carried over in terms of interest on your debt. But that's the only thing that carries over. You know, each round is essentially a clean slate, and you are only penalized, if that's the wrong word, but you're only harmed by you know, if you were short of a component, for example, until the resupply arrives, you may still be short that component. Okay. Or product until the next production run is completed. But those are relatively minor penalties. When you're looking at 6 months worth of operation, it's only the first few days that would be impacted by you know, inventory shortage or an inventory excess. Next question.
Great. The other question, and I think this is again to help level set everyone, the question was asked, how many teams actually have a positive ROI? And that was 8 out of the 28 teams at this point have a positive ROI. So in general terms,
you know, the highest positive ROI is 5.6%. So there were a lot that were right around 0, which isn't bad. And again, this round didn't count. It's mostly for your entertainment and enlightenment. Okay, so we hope you've learned from this round, because round 2 does count 20%.
Right.
Go on.
Okay, and that was it so far.
Okay, good, excellent. All right, so in purchasing, you'll see that there's a new option up here at the top under where it says round 2 decisions, agreements, supplier market. Supplier market, this is where you can choose another vendor. Now you have one vendor only for each of the commodities, the vitamin C, the mango, the orange, the PET bottles, and the packing materials. If you click supplier market and then identify the component, and I can't because I'm not a player, so I can't go in and make a change. It's grayed out for me. But you can pick the commodity and then do search, and it will list the potential suppliers for each of the commodities, and it will show you all these parameters. The quality, the lead time, certification country, and so forth, and you will be allowed to negotiate some of those parameters. You can negotiate, I believe at this level, it's payment terms, it's transportation, trade unit, quality, I believe, and reliability, I believe. But there's a little box will come up and it'll tell you what you can negotiate. And as I showed you last time, make whatever changes you want. You want to change the quality, you want to change the reliability, the payment terms, the delivery terms, and so forth. Go ahead and make the changes and then hit the calculate button, and it'll show you what the contract index will be. So it'll tell you how much you're going to pay for that level of performance. And you can go through that as many times as you want, and it doesn't take effect until you hit the deal button. A deal is like save or enter. Okay, when you hit deal and you come back to this screen, you'll see that new vendor in here. Now you'll have to terminate the old vendor, or else you'll have two, which in a higher level of the game you can have a primary and an alternate vendor, but at this level round 2, you can only have one supplier. So you can terminate. There may be a penalty for termination, but the system will tell you that. Okay, so that's how that works. Similarly, in operations, you can now change machines. Okay, so the level 1, you were tied to this fruit mix MQ machine, and you can look at the performance parameters of the machine. Tells you the mixer type, the batch minimum in liters, the maximum lot size in liters, the yearly costs, cost per hour, the investment, which is not a factor for the machine that you've already got because you're stuck with that. But if you go out to select a new mixer, which again I won't be able to do because I'm not a player, you go to select a new mixer, it will show you the potential mixers, and it will show you their production parameters, okay, as I just showed you here, right? So you can trade off the minimums, the maximums, the yearly costs, and the cost per hour, and all that, and maybe select a machine that's more appropriate to your strategy. Do you want to produce more, faster, more efficiently, or would you rather have more flexibility with a machine that costs less per hour or has a shorter cleaning and changeover time, and so forth, to handle smaller batches? Okay, so it ties to your strategy. Same with bottling. Okay, so with bottling, I can actually I can't. Yes, I can. Right here in the middle, select new bottling line. And again, I can't show you that because I'm not a player. You select a new bottling line, and it will show you the same kind of parameters, so, with the production speed and the cost and so forth and so on. At higher levels of the game, you can have more than one bottling machine. And if you do select a second bottling machine or a third or a fourth, down here in the bottom where it says allocate product to bottling lines, you'll have more than one column here. And you will have to distribute your product to the specific machine that you want it to. Okay, and you have to do that because if I add these other machines and incur those additional investment costs and don't reallocate the products are still going to be made on the Swiss fill too. Okay, so I have to allocate the products to the machines in order to have that take effect. Now, one other thing I need to show you here is this little green ball that's up on this upper menu where it says Purchasing, Operations, Sales, Supply Chain, Finance. That little green ball, that is a simulator within the simulator. Okay, it's called a production interval tool. And what it does is allow you to put in your parameters, in other words, your production interval and the demand, which comes from the forecast, and I'll show you that in a minute. But you can put in your demand, your expected demand, based on any changes you make to your customer promises or promotions, which you can't do in level 2. But you can tweak that production interval, and it will simulate, calculate, and it'll show you the costs, the runtime costs, the changeover time, changeover size in hours, and the changeover costs, startup costs, stock costs, and so forth. And then you can play with the production intervals for that machine or other machines. You know, in other words, you can trade off. You know, if you've got a couple of machines, you can tweak them back and forth and figure out the best lines to run each individual product on. Or if you want to try other machines and see how they perform, you can simulate it here before you lock that in. Okay, so that's a nice tool available for you. It's a simulation within the simulation to work on production interval, which is a key factor in how your finished goods flow into the warehouse and become available to ship to your customers. Okay, and I think, on sales out here, we have a new forecast tab here, and that shows you the forecasted demand. Now, what do you know about forecast? The answer should be yelling is it's wrong. Okay, so there's no guarantee that the actual sales will equal the forecast, but they will be somewhere around that. And remember that out here in customer, oops, wrong place. Look at product, right? These graphs are demand patterns, okay? So this is how much your demand fluctuates from week to week, and this is real world, okay? So your average demand for Freshie Orange 1 liter looks like 67,394 per week on average, but you can see it varies from 160 or 70,000 down to something around 25 or 30,000 in the most extreme. Okay, so the tool for managing demand fluctuation is safety stock, right? So you'll do your plans according to the average or the forecast, which you can see out here, right? Which you'll manage or set your safety stock based on the expected fluctuation, so that you don't have those surprise outages or stockouts based on those peaks of demand. Right. So you can manipulate the forecast. I'm not sure at this level whether you can or not, and I can't show it. I can't test it because I'm not a player. But I suggest you come out here and have a look at it just to see what the demand is. If you are allowed to increase or decrease, then it's as a percentage. And that'll be available to you, so you might want to check that. Why would you want to change the forecast? Well, if you're making some changes in your promises to your customers, you're changing your promises that you hope will change their demand, encourage them to buy more because the price is lower, perhaps. That may influence demand, but in a future version, when we get to round 3, you'll be able to do some promotional activity. That is where you can do coupons or ads and that kind of thing. And if you do some aggressive promotions, you may want to come out here and increase the forecast to reflect the benefit of that. So at this level, just go out here and have a look and see what your demand is. and think about it, and then be prepared in level or round 3, 4, and 5 when you activate promotions. Then you might want to come out here and change the forecast to reflect any promotional activity that you're engaged in. Okay. Also, if you make changes to the category management, in other words, if you eliminate a product from a particular customer, you may want to go tweak the forecast if that's available to you to reflect that. Now, if you eliminate a product, then that will automatically eliminate the expected sales to that customer or those customers. But if you want to emphasize and take some action to increase sales of other products to try to make up that revenue, then you might want to reflect that in a change in forecast. Okay, so I think that's all I wanted to say. Jennifer, do we have any other questions at this point?
We do. We had a few more questions come in. The first one says, can you briefly explain the dynamics of production interval and frozen period, how this impacts production of a particular product, increases or decreases?
Okay. I think about a second to see how I can just explain that briefly. Okay. You have a certain level of finished goods inventory that's a result of your production and demand. And the expected minimum level of finished goods inventory is set by safety stock, which is designed to cover the fluctuations in demand that you saw in that bar graph, demand pattern bar graph. Okay, but that aside, then the amount of finished goods inventory that you have is a factor of the production lot size and interval compared to the demand. So if your demand is 50,000 units a week and you are producing product weekly and you're doing it in batches of, let's say you're doing it every other week, 10-day production interval, and you're doing it in lots of 100,000. Okay, so every other week you're bringing 100,000 into stock, and then by the end of the second week you should be down to that safety stock level plus or minus, and then you'll bring in another 100,000. So your average inventory level will be the 1/2 the lot size plus safety stock. Okay, so and that's what you'll see. If everything is in sync, then you'll see your average inventory level at that half the production quantity plus safety stock. Okay, so if you want to reduce the amount of finished goods inventory, then you need to reduce the lot size. Okay, and one way to reduce the lot size is to reduce the production interval. Okay, so if I can make it more frequently, then I can make it in smaller batches, and then my average inventory will be that much less. Okay, it'll be half the new production interval, production size. Instead of 100,000 units, maybe it'll be 50,000 units, and I'll be doing it once a week. So that cuts my finished goods inventory by a significant amount. The other factor that factors in here is, and the other two factors I should say, is the shelf life and the frozen zone. Okay, so if I have an average inventory level of 50,000 units, and my average demand is 50,000 units a week, then I can expect to have no problems with shelf life, because I'll be turning that inventory over about once a week, and I've got 5 weeks or 4 weeks of shelf life available to me based on my my commitment to the customer. Okay, so that's the kind of thinking that you need to apply to this. Now, if in those periods of extra high demand, those demand spikes, it eats into my safety stock, then that's going to try to trigger a replenishment sooner than that specified planned interval. Okay, so I'm now cutting into my production interval, and that could be trouble. Okay, if I have that high spike of demand, I don't have enough safety stock to cover it, and then I run out, I'm limited in my ability to jigger the production schedule to get another supply in more quickly, because I cannot violate the frozen zone or the production interval. Okay, so if my frozen zone is 2 weeks and I run out of product and I'm less than 2 weeks away from the next interval coming in, I'm going to be out of product. I'm going to take a production hit on that. So you might want to map it out in kind of a little timeline. Say, all right, here's my finished goods availability is 4 weeks based on a 80% shelf life promise to the customer. So I've got 4 weeks worth of inventory to work with. Maybe I've got 2 weeks worth in safety stock. So I got another 2 weeks worth to factor in. And I've got to kind of do some little scenarios in my mind to think about, if I have this period of high demand and it eats up my safety stock, and I'm in danger of running out, how quickly can I respond to that? And the universal solution to that is to keep your frozen zone and your production interval as small as possible, but that's going to increase your production costs because you're going to have more changeovers, you're going to have smaller lot sizes, okay, and you've got to make sure you've got enough capacity in your plant to be able to deal with that kind of a schedule with more changeovers, less direct production time because you've got more changeover intervals and some more waste and that kind of thing that goes with changeover. So you might want to get the proper equipment that's easier to change over and work more efficiently with smaller batches. You may want to do the over here in production, we look at where is it? In mixing, I think. No, it's in bottling. Breakdown training and preventive maintenance actions. SMED, this SMED that's a quick changeover. Okay, and if you go to I, it will tell you that, come on, Internet. Oops, I hit the wrong button. User problem. Let me tell you that SMED costs $20,000 per year, so $10,000 per 6-month interval, and it will reduce your changeover time by 30%. So you think this through and figure out it's going to double your changeovers, have your lot size kind of in general, then look at your changeover time. Go out to production or operations and look at mixing and bottling, and look at changeover time is 19.1 hours per week on average. Okay, so if I invested the 10,000 euros per 6-month cycle and reduce that by 30%, then I'm going to be saving about 6 hours per week of changeover time, which is now available for production. Okay, and if I double the amount of changeovers, but then reduce them by 30%, I'll be going not to 40 hours of changeover time, but I'll be going to 28 hours of changeover time, which may be tolerable, or maybe I need to add another shift or another person or something like that. So that's the kind of logic you need to go through. Look at the effect of any change in frozen zone, production interval, safety stock, so forth, what that's going to do to your lot sizes and production intervals, right? And then take a step back and see what that's going to do to your production process, and whether that's going to increase the amount of changeover to the point where it starts to jeopardize this production plan adherence, or whether you need to add people or do the SMED changeover reduction and that kind of thing to free up some capacity. Other questions?
Yes, we have 3 more, but I think they are simpler in nature.
I hope I'll be able to give shorter answers because I'm running out of time.
Okay, so this is a popular one as well. How many packs/bottles can each pallet location carry?
Okay, that's an easy one. Go up here to the Information tab up at the top, and there's all your bills of materials and your size measurements. So we have 216 PET bottles per pallet layer, 1,080 per pallet. We have 17,280 1-liter containers per pallet. I think that's what you're asking. And then the bill of materials up here at the top shows you how many ounces or liters, or I guess it's liters, or inches per component per product.
Okay, super. Okay, the next question we have that is similar in nature, it is, can you explain the relation between IBC and pallet location in the raw material warehouse? Does one match the other?
An IBC is it's a plastic barrel in essence, and I believe an IBC takes 1 pallet location in the warehouse, and a drum takes 1 pallet location in the warehouse. I'm not 100% certain on that, but the information is in the documentation. It's in the simulation, so you can look it up. I'll take a pass on that.
Okay.
It is in there, but I believe I'm quite sure it's 1 drum per pallet location. I'm not 100% sure about the IBC. It's 4 times the size of a drum, so it may take 4 pallet locations. I'm not sure about that, but it is in there for you to find. Next question.
All right. How can we access or see this round's rankings?
Okay, you can only see the top. Ooh, no, it's turned off. You can't see them. Sorry. Jennifer might choose to tell you. I don't know. Do you want them to see the rankings or not?
So typically, and we're following what we did last year, for the round 1, we did not show them because, again, we realized this had 0 percentage weight in the overall score. But we did allow that once we got on site to have that visibility as we're going through rounds 3 through 5.
Okay, so we'll show you on a PowerPoint. You can see where you stand relative to the average on this main screen under My Company, right here at the bottom. That's your score, in this case, is 5.6 on the ROI. The average score is minus 5.4. Rejected components, your score is 1.5%. The average is 2.2%. Because you're better than average, it's green. Okay? And if you go out to supply chain, it's availability of components, stock components in weeks, and stock components weekly. Under operations, cube utilization and raw materials, cube utilization and finished goods, production plan adherence. Again, your score on the top, the average of all 28 teams on the bottom. And over here in sales, gross margin, obsolete products, and service level outbound order lines. Your score on the top, average on the bottom. And when you look at the individual working screens on the left-hand side up here, the dashboard, ROI, gross margin, obsolete products, service level, the same 4 indicators that you saw on the front, but this shows you in bar graph form. Your performance is a little diamond. The gray is the range of your competitors. Okay. Does that answer
Okay,
questions?
thank you.
Okay, it
Let
turns
me
out it.
take another view here.
One other thing.
Yes.
Team names. One of the rules of the game here is you're not supposed to identify yourself, so the judges don't know who the various teams are. I take exception to this one, Spartans. Surely that has some meaning somewhere. I don't know who Spartans are, but somebody might. UB School of Management, enough said. Need to change that. You're not supposed to be able to identify who you are. Okay, and also while we're talking about team names, we have two teams with the same name, Team 12. 11269 is actually Team 11. So you might want to change that to something else. Team 12, you can leave it Team 12 if you want to, and if you come up with something a little more creative.
Right. And on that point, definitely feel to use that creativity. We have often lots of plays on word around juice and oranges and all kinds of things about bottling. So again,
Yeah,
please
cool.
take that to heart, especially if you do have a name relating to your school. There is one last question, Dave.
Yeah.
In the
you change that, by the way, under profile. Go to profile and change your team name there. Go ahead. Sorry.
The last question that is here for tonight says, in the operations arena, which metrics impact the production plan adherence and how? I'm not sure how much you can get into that.
Okay. Production plan adherence, see a little I?
Yes.
And then the more. There you go. The percentage of production runs that is completed on time and in full. Production plan adherence is influenced by overtime. In the event of overtime, the production planning is not always met, and by the availability of components. Okay. Also, let me remind you that you have mail. Okay. So under operations, you look at your mail. Right. You may find some hints in there about things that are not going as well as you might expect. Yes, I don't see one right here about increased speed of bottling lines. That's production related. And there's some explanations: intake time, frozen period. Okay, so there's some good hints in there too. They'll tell you about things, particularly that are not going the way they should be, or could be changed, or could be made better, or require your attention. So be sure and read your mail. And that is about it, I believe.
Yes, that actually answers all of our questions as well.
Okay, so you have until 9 o'clock Sunday morning. I'll shut it down then. You'll see the results in Albany on Wednesday at 3:30 approximately.
Friday.
Friday. Did I say Thursday?
Yes. You said Wednesday. You're getting there extra early.
Wow. Must be after 8 o'clock tonight.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks, everyone. I will send out a notice as we post this on YouTube as well, so you'll be aware when this is out there if you want to come back for any future reference. Otherwise, we will be monitoring the email address during the week again, and we will see you very shortly in Albany. Thanks a lot, and enjoy round 2. Good night, everyone. Bye.